international consultancy Bain has now confirmed it's withdrawing from the organisation Business Leadership SA. The organisation was coming under intense pressure to expel Bain for its role in state capture. The Zondo Commission found that Bain had played a role in the sabotage of SARS, I think that must be the right word, and its former South African head, Vittorio Massone, who had met with then President Jacob Zuma many times, ostensibly to plan how SARS would be restructured or weakened. In a statement today, Bain also says it believes the Zondo Commission made mistakes in its findings, even though Bain paid back all the money it was paid by SARS to conduct the restructuring. Khaya Sithole is a political and financial analyst. He joins us now. Khaya, good afternoon to you. Why do you think Bain's pulled out of BLSA? Did the pressure just get too much?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers. Well, the answer is not why Bain pulled out, but rather why Bain was embraced by BLSA in the first place. The key problem here, of course, seems to be that there are two barometers that are used to evaluate the complicity or indeed the crimes of those that are involved in state capture. There is a universal consensus that says that those that are involved need to be punished and they need to be exiled in one form or another. And then there is that very elusive barometer that Business Leadership South Africa seems to be applying that simply says that they are going to write the rules of what they think amounts to fair compensation and indeed, the type of forgiveness that warrants people to be embraced back into their fold. And clearly, there is a great disparity between what society thinks and what business leadership thinks. And I think, obviously, what has become a reality here is that an elegant solution is for BLSA to not say that they're rejecting their clearly naive decision, but rather for BLSA to say we think it's in the best interest of everybody for us to walk away. But clearly, the problem is with the structures and the processes of BLSA that embrace Bain in the first place.
Well, I mean, your point is actually, I think, impossible to argue with, Khaya, because, I mean, there are probably two big institutions. If you want to weaken South Africa, you need to get them. One is the NPA. We all know the history of the NPA. But the other is SARS. And, I mean, if you look at what's been happening in the Zondo Commission and you look at the Newzroom Commission as well, the evidence of the role that Bain played is so stark. It's absolutely there in black and white.
Yeah, so I think the crux of the problem seems to be the reality that BLSA, in all its glory, doesn't seem to understand that every single company that is indeed even a member of BLSA exists on the basis of two licenses. There is the commercial license, which is simply the question of whatever business that they're in. If there's a demand for it, then of course they're going to have the commercial viability. But then there's also the more important social license, which simply says that whatever you do should not be to the detriment of society. In fact, a very good example is how drug dealers operate. Drug dealers, I can confirm to you, that have got a viable business model because people want to buy drugs. But the problem here is that society has decided that drug dealing is not in the social interest. So drug dealers do not have a social license to operate, which is why they don't go and register their companies. So the big issue here is that surely a company that has strategically set out to dismantle such a pillar of an organization like SARS should not have the social license to operate in a country like South Africa, regardless of how in demand their services are as a consulting company. It is that dimension that Business Leadership South Africa seems to be failing to understand, in that no one is arguing that consulting companies are important for one reason or the other. The question that was being raised is surely an organization that was so complicit in a destruction of such a fundamental institution is not the type of organization you should be embracing in one form or another. The strange thing, of course, is that we've been down this road before. It was only a couple of years ago where, again, BLSA decided to re-embrace KPMG into its fold, and we're not in a position to explain exactly what it is that they had seen that the rest of us had missed that then warranted them re-embracing KPMG into their fold. So unfortunately, it appears that this is the way BLSA operates, and perhaps we are the ones that have been wrong in expecting much more from them.
I mean, the other problem here is Bain themselves, right? They have paid the money back. They still, in their statement today, claim shame, poor dears, to have been badly treated, unfairly treated by the Zondo Commission. They also say they're supportive of the Zondo Commission. I mean, I don't know if they can have both of those things at the same time, but to my mind, I thought it was quite a defensive statement that they issued.
Well, of course, it is nonsensical, first and foremost, because the reality here is that Bain has had multiple opportunities to put its side of the story on the table. The problem is that the man that was at the epicenter of all of this essentially ran away from the country and refused to participate in these processes. So whatever version you get from Bain is the sanitized version or the third-party version of people that say, well, actually, as far as we are concerned, we didn't do anything wrong. Well, of course, as far as they're concerned, they didn't do anything wrong, because whoever's writing the statement is not the person that is attending those 17 meetings with the former president of the republic. It's not the person who was crafting a strategy with Tom Moyane beforehand. So we have to take everything that they say with a pinch of salt. It's literally hearsay evidence, as I would say in legal circles. Now, of course, it's being crafted by an individual who has, as a primary instinct, the reason to defend the company in one form or another. So the statement is always going to come out and say that as far as we know, we don't do anything wrong. Well, luckily for us, it doesn't matter what they know. We know better from the Newzroom Commission and from the State Capture Inquiry that they were definitely complicit in the destruction of SARS. So the reality here is that a company like this one, until it can explain why it has failed to convince its former leader, Mr. Massone, to come back and explain exactly what his actions are, it doesn't matter how many statements that they read. I'll always regard it as hearsay evidence from people who have to defend the company at all costs.
Should we say, I mean, that to punish Bain, no one should do business with them? Should we try and kick them out of the country? And while we're there, Khaya, should we think about doing the same to McKinsey?
We can't be asking that question. We've done it before. Bain Company no longer exists on the basis that we all looked at what they did and we formed the opinion that it was not desirable for a company like that to continue to operate. So it's not like we're rewriting the rules. We're simply saying that now that you've been found to be guilty of doing something so egregious, we shouldn't be the ones that are actually supporting you in your business endeavors. So that is actually where we are. So it's not that we're introducing a new dimension into the conversation. We are simply saying that if we thought that Bain Company was evil enough for us to advocate for their universal shutdown, they no longer exist today. Please explain to me why we're not advocating for the same thing to happen, at least in the South African operating license. They're free to operate everywhere else in the world, but in a country where they've actually injected so much destruction in such an important institution, I fail to understand why society should be tolerating their existence.
Khaya Sithole, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate it. While we're talking to Khaya Sithole, of course, that breaking news on your screen, the former SARS executive, Johan van Lockerenberg, saying through a statement from his lawyers that he suffered a home invasion this morning, a robbery. He believes that it was linked to his testimony. You will recall this time last week in Newsfeed on Friday, we spoke to the former government spokesperson, Timber Maseko, who also had a robbery, had people on his roof. He was just about to speak. It was hours before he was due to speak at an event about whistleblowers. So there's context to all of this. Of course, each incident must be investigated. We'll wait for the police to see what's happened there. But certainly that statement coming through from Johan van Lockerenberg's lawyers this afternoon.